Another dark log from the diary of a graver named John Weaver, which is me. Morning, guys. Are we alive yet? Are we awake yet? Are we emotionally screwed up and sleep deprived? Because I sure as hell am dealing with a dog right now. It is the time index. It's 12:31 in the morning, West Coast time. December 7th, I was about to say that, wasn't it? It's 2025 in our current year, but let's go back to 1941, shall we? This is the anniversary that we keep celebrating every year because this was the first time that we've only recovered and recorded and losing survivors left and right. Regarding the Pearl Harbor attack from a country long ago that was the enemy of the United States. We had their citizens coming over and becoming naturalized and living among the islanders across the waters, not to mention in the mainland, the United States of America. We had residents from Japan being part of our culture. And it added to our culture. It added to everything else we've had. I mean, if you think about it, that was the 1700s, 1800s when we actually had Chinese immigrants coming over and help build communities on the West Coast, and not to mention building railroads. Not to mention everybody else building railroads. But they were making their lives. They're creating cultures, being part of the larger community. We were diversity, equality, and inclusiveness during those days. It's part of our heritage, part of the history. But when you had power-mad lunatics out there in the island nations of Japan who wanted more and were willing to do things about it, not to mention spreading their rhetoric and ideology across the waters to the other island nations and to the other countries to build upon an empire. Now, I have to keep this one in mind. I just got out of a history course with my community college here out in Antelope Valley, California. And the course was dealing with the end of World War II all the way through the second Gulf War situation we've been running into, not to mention Afghanistan. So this date was coming up, and hardly anybody in my class was touching this thing. Understanding the implications, the ramifications, anything that might strike a bell in them, but to them it's just a date. They didn't think, my students in that class, my fellow co-students, didn't think of what this date actually meant and represented. We had, in our lifetimes, if we lived long enough, to witness tragedy happen on September 11th, 2001. And it was similar in thought and feeling and in the horror of what happened in Pearl Harbor in 1941 on a Sunday when you heard squadron of planes flying low and dropping torpedoes and bombs on their targets, sinking ships, destroying buildings, airstrips, people. I didn't say military, I said people. It means if you're a Hawaiian Islander, you're dead. If you were Nissan, you're dead. If you were a soldier or a civilian of any sort, you were dead. The Japanese government was taking out America's ability to wage a response in the Pacific waters. It would take us 2 or 3 years to get our military up to operation where we can actually fight and strike back. And it would be a costly jungle war and marches to death camps through hostile environments. But the rebellion kept going, one form or another. It was one thing to hear a former commander of the area said, "I shall return." Yeah, well, he did return about a couple of years later with a force necessary to do the great pushback through the island nations, through the islands of the Philippines, up to the islands of Japan. And it was during that time when it was decided that we were going to be using something of a nuclear nature to make our point in Europe, and I'm glad the hell we did. We didn't do it, but instead we picked upon two Japanese cities to get Japan's attention, to knock the shit out. Otherwise, if they had built a third bomb, I think Tokyo would have been leveled. But theoretically, the bombs were supposed to be stopping the war. Two bombs with a lot of radiation and a lot of radioactivity, and carrying that marker throughout generation after generation of the Japanese people. But in the United States, it was an act of a desperate nature that we did. And we managed to use nuclear physicists from Europe, from Germany, to help create something quite ugly that still has its ramifications to this day. Oh, we benefit from the technology and for what made it, but we're stained with the legacy that we had to use it and utilize it. But we also had to deal with the stain and horror of one country blasting away at another. We had territory, but we didn't own the islands of Hawaii. We didn't make the treaties formal. We didn't. It may take us another decade or two to do so. Even this data culture sometimes struggles with our identity of being a United States state. All the stuff we're putting them through and their economic fiascos going on. Wildfires they had, hurricanes. Each one of our states are going through their own hell. And I do think about the Hawaiian people. They encapsulated a lot of cultures into their own, including us mainlanders out here. Were we glad we didn't get nailed back in 1941 on the mainland? It terrified everybody up and down the coastlines. It did. It was reported that we even had some sinkings off the east coast. The Caribbean waters all the way up to Maine. It started a hell of a legacy. I wish I could say all these words to my professor and did a class on this one. That they would understand that the horrors that they witnessed back in September 11th was the same thought and feeling and sickening in that pit of your stomach that you can't get rid of. You can't get rid of it at all. Somewhere home, somewhere safe was invaded, was attacked, blown apart. People who had relatives, friends, family, no longer among the living. And for those who are rescuing those out of the rubble in New York City, they're still suffering the medical and still have to depend upon the federal government to get off their dead ass, get some more funding for treatment for these guys who were rescue workers of all sorts. And they're getting dumped on by the current regime and everybody else in Congress. But we've had ours on the mainland, much like Pearl Harbor had theirs in 1941. We didn't listen to prop planes. We listened to jet engines in the sky that were commonplace. It still is commonplace. But not so much when they ram it into two buildings and then another one happens to run its course in the fields of Pennsylvania. Jet engines. Now, does that give you a thrill, or does that give you a stomach ache? Imagine hearing the prop engines after that. 1941 on an island that got its ass kicked. Prop engines were the norm, the common sound. People thought they were American pilots coming in, but no, they weren't. Hundreds of people died. Many carry the legacy, one way or another. A lot of the survivors are still dying off. Soon there'll be nobody left to remember. Honestly, to remember it. We'll be stuck with material that's going to be whitewashed because we've got a government system that doesn't want to care about that. They don't care about the horrors that was inflicted, but the horrors that we're inflicting upon people. In the warm waters of the Caribbean, we're attacking a country indirectly by slaughtering innocent boats. There's been talk about MAGA Christians may or may not have an issue over this. And somebody out there I'm familiar with, and a lot of you people probably are if you followed his channel, he posed a question to the MAGA Christians on this one. Now, how do you assholes feel, and I'll call you every one of them assholes because you don't follow Christ, that in your diluted version of Christianity, where did it say in the Bible, in any of the damn books of the New Testament, say it's all right to murder and feel good about it because Christ would have authorized this? Did Christ ever authorize violence? Did Christ ever authorize withholding food from people? Did he authorize people being deported left and right? Did he authorize atrocities and supported a regime? Now, in Christ's time, it was the Roman Empire. If you assholes ever studied your history, and I mean study the history, not just deal with the trope notes, the Russian Empire was nothing compared to the Roman fucking Empire. And they had a larger span and more ruthless assholes out there than Russia does, or even the United States does. Here in the United States right now, we're picking up people off the streets and out of homes and throwing them outside, and we're laughing about it. Try having a Roman soldier come into your home and just kill you just for the fun of it. And you have no legal recourse because there is no legal recourse except to survive a damn gut strike. But you're dead anyway because they'll probably take you to a coliseum somewhere, have you fight lions or something like that. Or even fight gladiators. Or just die in the street, period. Think about that one, schmucks. We may be getting close to that one. There has been talk among the social medias out there, I've heard, that they want to bring back the Wild Wild West out here, shooting people for the fun of it. Or how about hanging them? Shall we have public hangings? Can we make Sunday, right after church, a glorious picnic of seeing people die in front of you? That's your legacy. That's your bloodstained legacy right there, assholes. You voted this shit in November 2024. I will not forget it. I will not forgive. And I'll keep reminding you, schmucks, what you did to us. Every stinking American voter who voted against and for that allowed this shit to happen. And now we're dealing with it all. Enjoy, guys. You earned it. That's enough. That being said,